What is up, everyone? It is Thursday, so you know what time it is. It's time for TCR Live with my good friends, Aarron Van Buren and Kyler Burd. I am so thankful that you all are joining me again. It's good to be with you guys. Let's start with you, Aarron. How are you doing today?
I am great. It's, things looking up and just, except this is always one of the highlights of my week, and I'm just happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, it's a highlight for me, and I always enjoy hanging out with you guys. We're getting to chat before the show, and just good to catch up with you. And I always enjoy talking Cardinals with you guys. Kyler, how are you doing, dude?
Doing good. It's starting to get hot in Texas. The wind's starting to blow. So
you want 38 and snow? We got that here in Chicago.
You still have snow. Wow.
Yeah.
No, it was like 94 today. So, a good spring Texas day. But back in the air conditioning, ready to talk about Cardinals with you guys.
Nice. It's a little like that here in Georgia. It's getting a little warmer and stuff. So maybe, Aarron, we can just, kind of meet in the middle, just give us a little bit of that. We'll give you a little bit of the heat down here. So yeah, so I don't know. So want to say hey to everyone who's in the chat joining us. I know folks are piling in. We got Lennon Wolf. What is up? I'm season ticket holder for the Cardinals. Good to see you, Lennon.
Wow.
The man, the legend, the myth, Lennon Wolf. Appreciate you being here. So we're going to talk about a number of things. We're going to talk a little bit about free agency, and there's not a lot to talk about, but we'll talk about that a little bit. We might get to talking a little bit about the draft. We'll see if we get there. Want to say hey to, again, we got Lennon Wolf and the Suns, of course. The Suns are so good right now.
He's got money.
He's got maybe. Rath's Hammer, thank you for being here. Appreciate you being here. So one of the things I think we were going to kick off with is it's not as much like player related news. Well, it's not player related news. It's coaching related news. But the Arizona Cardinals recently named a new Bidwell coaching fellow, and it's a program they have for underrepresented coaching candidates to create opportunities for coaches to get time to immerse amongst a pro program. And they named someone, Connor Sanger, as their Bidwell coaching fellow. And as it so happens, our own Aarron Van Buren actually has some history with him. So I thought we'd hand it over to Aarron and let him talk a little bit about his experience with Connor Sanger.
Yeah. So this actually, this whole thing goes way back to when I was even in high school. I actually played against Connor. And I remember my junior year, he tore us up in our own stadium. He had like a 90-yard quarterback touchdown run, which you'd never see those. And I never forgot that. I was just so crazy. But eventually we ended up as teammates / coach mates at UW Oshkosh in 2015. And so TCR, if you could show that picture here real quick. I'm right by the red arrow with the aviators on, of course, couch style, of course. And Connor's up there in the upper left. This is UW Oshkosh. And, Connor transferred into the program after being a walk-on at the University of Wisconsin. Now, just listen to some of these quarterback stats here, because you don't hear these very much. And I didn't know these were this high until today. Connor went for his entire career in 3 varsity seasons. Passing wise, 397 for 692, 4,500 yards and 37 touchdowns passing. Rushing, he had 326 carries for 2,190 yards and 39 rushing touchdowns. He was an amazing athlete, and that's what earned him the nickname when he was at Wisconsin called Young Russ. But for whatever reason, the roster played out the way he did, and he played scout team for 2 years, won scout team player of the year twice. But then he transferred up here to Oshkosh. And so this is where I began to meet him. And we started working together that year alone. This is kind of a long story. I'm trying to do it as expeditiously as I can. But this year, 2015, we were about halfway through our season when we played our biggest rival in our conference, UW Whitewater. Our starting quarterback got hurt, and so Connor had to go in, and he was able to do a couple plays, but unfortunately, kind of like what ended his time at Wisconsin was a freaky hand injury. He unfortunately tore his ACL. We ended up winning that game on a blocked field goal with our third string quarterback to win the conference title. But that's not it though. Basically, Connor is one of the hardest working people that I have met, and being, thrown into the fire and helping out even after he was done for the season with the quarterbacks is something that he's always been good at. If you take the first true season that he coached, which was 2017, he worked with the quarterbacks. Our record was 12-1. We won the conference again. Our quarterback had over 3,000 yards passing at 34 touchdowns. And our quarterback actually won the D3 version of the Heisman, our first time ever in school history. So along with all the other coaches as well, he helped achieve that. And he went on to Carroll University in my hometown of Waukesha, Wisconsin, and then UW Whitewater, where he was a running backs coach. They also went all the way to the national championship, but they lost. So fast forward, he's at North Dakota State as an offensive quality control. And if you don't really follow FCS football, they won the Missouri Valley Football Conference title, and they also won the national title as well. And he he helped the team achieve like 5th and 3rd downs percentage, 5th in passing yards per completion. I mean, and the accolades go on and on and on. And so what this means for the Cardinals is it's Singer and Murray are listed at the same height. They're both 5'10". But Connor, I would say, is probably at least a little bigger than Kyler, but frame wise, but maybe there's some things that Connor can teach Murray that we don't know about. And just being able to, come at from a different perspective and be a sounding board, because now there's someone who's like played the position in the same boat as him, same kind of, mobile and dual threat quarterback that, he might be able to pick his brain from. So yeah. I couldn't have been more excited for basically my former teammate, coach mate, whatever you want to call it, to get this, especially when it's my team. So I am so happy I was able to talk about this, and congratulations, Connor, you've deserved it, man. So
awesome. Well, I think, and I'm from my perspective, I for some of you, we were talking about this before. My day job, I'm a sociologist, so these kinds of things, and one of my areas of research is things with like underrepresented groups and inclusivity and inclusion. And so I'm a big supporter of the Bidwell, what the Bidwells have done along these lines. And, and I think it's great that they have the fellowship program. Obviously there's a lot of other things that are being done and need to be done. So I think but it's also great because one of the reasons you don't have enough coaches of color is because the pipeline hasn't always created the right opportunities to get that experience. So it's great to see a coach get in there, so I think it's great. But I wanted to, add one more thing, because if y'all didn't notice it, I think we're bearing the headline here a little bit, because, man, and I'm glad you mentioned the Aviators. That is something else, right? But the question I have for everyone, and I'd like to ask the folks in the chat, is who wore it better, you or Cliff? So I'm going to have a poll. I'm going to put a poll in the community. Who wore it better, Aarron or Cliff? Man, so everyone put your vote. Who wore it better? Because they both got the shades. They both have the 5 o'clock shadow beard going on. They're both looking slick and smooth, and so man, it's a tough call in my opinion. Who wore it better? And I know like Aaron's picture's a little more blurry, so he's at a disadvantage there. But that poll's up there, so y'all go ahead and vote. Who you think wore it better? I mean, you got to, in these two photos definitely Aarron. Jordan P's got your back there.
Man.
I'm telling you, it's right now. I can tell you, it's 50-50.
It's pretty close.
It's close. So, all I know is they're both looking pretty cool in that picture. I wish I could pull it off. Kudos to you. So
I can get you those sunglasses, man.
I couldn't pull it off though. So
they're cheap. Don't worry. They're
good. Anyway. So, so I think, man, it's a tie. We'll leave that poll up again, but I told you I'd have a little fun with this, Aarron. So we had to have fun.
That's great.
With it. Let's see what else. Aarron has the real true aviators. Cliff has some Ray-Ban looking versions. I think that's a fair point right there. Anyway, anyway, Aarron has some experience. So, with Connor Sanger. So I think that's really neat to hear your experiences with him and stuff. And man, I'll tell you what, that poll is still at a tie. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about free agency. And, we got a guy in here who's being a little trollish. I haven't muted him just yet, but he's kind of pumping his chest out there a little bit. I'm not going to be rude, but I'm going to be rude.
Is he saying he's a Cardinals fan?
No, this is a Rams fan. He was in here last time. I had to mute him because he was getting a little trolly, and we'll see how I'll give him a little bit of leash and see how he goes. But I ban trolls pretty quickly, but friendly visitors from other fans bases are fine.
You should take those from Peo Time.
But Peo Time. Peo Time sets the bar for how to be a person who deserves respect. But I when you start out with I'm not going to be rude, but you're being rude. Okay, yeah. So saying I'm not going to be rude doesn't mean you're not being rude. You're actually being rude. Whatever. Everyone can talk smack. Y'all have had an interesting offseason. Congratulations on winning the month of March.
If you want to win the offseason, that's fine. We'll try to win the regular season. So bring it.
How am I being rude? I'm just being honest. Yeah, dude, that's subjective. That's your opinion. So you're being rude by coming in here talking smack. That's all right. Well, that's the last comment I'll put up from you, buddy. All right, but let's get into the folks. What we're talking about. So in terms of free agency, so the Cardinals signed, one player recently. Will Hernandez. Yay! So we signed someone, right? So I did a poll to get kind of a sense of at least how the fans on the Cardinals fans on my channel feel. Oh wait, I'm gonna end the poll because we got 7 votes and Aarron wins. So Aarron, you win. Aarron won it more better. All right, so I put this poll up to get a sense of how Cardinals fans feel about the Will Hernandez signing, and it's probably about what I would have expected. I don't know. How do you guys feel about the results here?
That looks pretty spot on to the variety of emotions that I feel about it. But the right under 45%, you have a plurality, but you don't have a majority. I think that sums it up pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, yep. I loved Will Hernandez coming out of the draft, and I was really interested in him because he's one of your guards that goes to work with the lunch pail or whatever they call it, and he's a record. He's a demolisher, and I thought he was going to do well in New York, but the quarterback situation has just been so insert bad word here that not many offensive linemen could really make that quarterback look good unless you had like the Great Wall of Dallas or something.
Yeah. And he came out in that 2018 draft. He went to UTEP, and we all know that Sean Kugler was his head coach there at UTEP. I went to New Mexico State just down the road, like 45 minutes away. UTEP's a big rival. So I watched Will Hernandez play quite a lot in college.
Look at all these connections.
Yeah, we do have some weird personal connections this time.
Right.
Because at UTEP at the same time, Will Hernandez and Aaron Jones were playing together.
Oh, wow.
Aaron Jones from the Green Bay Packers. So they were both very good. And Aaron Jones, I think he had like a 192-yard game against NMSU one time. But Will Hernandez was really good, and he's super crazy physical. I know people kind of talk about the short arms, but that's a big dude regardless. And he always played like it in college. And it's always interesting that his rookie season was his best season.
Yeah.
But he did get thrown into a New York Giants organization that is has not been relevant since their last Super Bowl win, to put it pretty lightly. And the quarterback situation's been bad, to say the least, in New York. And even having Saquon with so much injury history and things like that, all of that impacts the offensive line. So I'm not ready to write him off. Like, I loved him in 2018 and was really, really surprised he didn't go in the first round.
The one thing I'm really interested about is like the 2% for the worst move ever. I mean, the Cardinals did let Max Garcia walk and actually signed with the Giants. So away, it's like a sign and trade. It's like a half-ass trade. Yeah.
Yep, we swapped them, but I think we got the better end of that deal.
Oh yes, easily. Just no more Aaron Donald just nearly taking him 5 yards in the air. Never again.
Yeah, I like the move, and I did a video where I talked about it a little bit, and the pros on him is he's really strong. So Aaron Donald's bull rush, I'm not gonna say he won't ever be able to, because Aaron Donald is superhuman.
Yeah,
but he's going to be better able to withstand that bull rush than some of the other options we've had. He does have the short arms they talk about, and he's not as fleet of foot. So for quicker guys that are trying to get around him, and Aaron Donald can do that too. So, he may have some trouble with that. I get some comments on my video sometimes from fan bases, other fan bases, and some of the Giants fans who comment on my video talked about, that he struggled, with picking up stunts and things like that, so he's got some limitations, but here's the thing, like every player has limitations. If they don't, they're Aaron Donald, right? Or they're that truly elite. So I think he's an improvement on the players that we had playing right guard. His upside is better for the position. He graded really well in his rookie year and then kind of regressed. And, people are talking about, it
wasn't 2018.
Deontay's talking about his quick hands, so there are other things. Being good with your hands can be a way to offset that. And, feet we can work, but have him slow down with those, there's a lot of things that can be worked on. Right. What you can't work on you can work on, but what he's got that's hard to work on is 37 bench reps at the combine. The guy is strong.
Yeah.
So I like taking a flyer on a guy who had the talent to be drafted at the top of the second round, who's that strong. Yeah, maybe he's not going to ever be as quick as some other guards, but on the interior line, you can work around those limitations, right? So Aaron, go jump in.
So, I mean, I watched a little bit this clip of this press conference where the reporters were getting a little fun with the questions, but I haven't seen Will Hernandez without pads on, and that guy is a mountain of a man. And this isn't coming with the same kind of fanfare as when Mike Iupati came in, when we got him in free agency in 2015. But they look similar in body size. And I'm not saying this is going to be Mike Iupati 2015 again,
but he's similar type of player, right?
Right. And, and when it comes to picking up stunts, it's a lot of the scheme thing, because, it all depends on where's the center going? How is the center calling these things? Mm-hmm. Basically all we had was, we had part of the offensive line that was 3-side protection, which was a zone. We kind of felt things out. And then the other side was man on the other. And so if the strong side was called to the wrong way by the center, and then, the defense takes advantage of that, then it's going to make him look bad, because if you're expecting to be man on, one-on-one as a lineman, and then you got your center passing off the guard or the D tackle to you, and now you got 2 guys on you, that's not your fault. And so I haven't really been able to watch the film, but that's just one thing I thought of that might have happened in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the coaching changes probably didn't help, and having a quarterback who's, so when you look at his PFF grades over the last couple of years, he's graded about where our right guards graded. So if he doesn't improve, he's,
It's not like
what
we're
we
getting
had.
any worse.
Yeah. But the upside's there. If worst case scenario, we got a 1 year flyer on a guy who's, going to be in the mix. So I like it. Want to say hey to a couple people and acknowledge a couple of things. Payotine, our favorite Rams YouTuber and Rams
favorite
fan.
Canadian.
Yes, also Canadian. Yeah. And congratulations. Listen, we had a guy in here earlier who doesn't understand how to be a gracious guest, but who's a Rams fan, but you understand. Listen, Bobby Wagner, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, but the middle linebacker was one of the points of weakness on the Rams roster. I know they got a young guy that they kind of like, but it wasn't a strong point. So I think it's a great signing for you guys. I wouldn't want the Cardinals to try to be in on it because we want our young middle linebackers to get some playing time. But I think for what you guys needed, I think it's a great signing. And don't worry, you're not responsible for them. So
but
thanks
we appreciate
dude. You represent the Ramley very well, and you're always welcome here. One of my favorite YouTubers I've met. But yeah, I think it's a good signing for the Rams. Let me real quick hit on a couple of things. Michael, Richard, hey, listen. Unfortunately, the Falcons signed Auden Tate. I'm assuming that's your time, and I loved.
Isn't Tate the quarterback from Cincinnati or something?
No, I think they're talking about the wide receiver Auden Tate. Unless that you're talking about someone else,
like the college. No, never mind.
The quarterback is Ritter at Cincinnati.
Yep, my bad.
So I think Michael was talking about Auden Tate, a receiver, and I had a video where I had Auden Tate as someone I hoped they would have picked up. So I completely agree. I wish they would have looked at him. I think it would have been a good fit, but the Falcons signed him recently. So, and Jose's. Giving a shout out to, Bruce Arians, who retired, and, obviously, retired again. Right. But no, listen, I respect what he's done to set up, Todd Bowles in a good situation. Todd Bowles, I think, deserved another chance. He did a respectable job with the Jets, who are, not a good organization. So I can tell, Aaron, that you're not an Arians fan, but I tell you, whatever you want to say about Arians, he's always done a good job of helping create opportunities for people and things. And I respect that. So, yeah. And he's retired. So congratulations. And I hope, obviously I don't want the Bucs to win over our Cardinals, but I hope Todd Bowles has a good career. I think he deserves it. So I'm happy about that. Either of you want to jump in on any of those thoughts?
I don't know if it was a Bidwell thing because he wants, everything, the succession to be nice and smooth. It's not really about that. I don't think from a Cardinals fan perspective, because Bruce didn't want anything to do with the rebuild. He didn't draft a quarterback. He knew what he was doing. And I know he's not the general manager. He doesn't call the shots, but you have a lot of influence as a head coach. And as the all-time winningest head coach in the franchise's history, not drafting the quarterback was a bad mistake. He knew this team was going to be bad. The free agents were leaving. Calais Campbell, Matthew was already gone. So when he came back, it was a slap in the face, in my opinion. I felt personally betrayed. But, he came back, won a title, and if he's happy now and going to do the front office, then good for him. He did bring a lot of people in that were, trailblazers, like Jen Welter, first female assistant defensive coach, I think, along with a bunch of other ones. And Bruce Arians very progressive in that way. So it's just anytime it's brought up, it's just like bittersweet, pretty much.
Yeah. Kyler, thoughts?
My feelings on Bruce Arians is that he brought a different expectation of what the culture in Arizona could be.
Yes.
And if that's his lasting influence, then that is a great thing, because he showed that you can bring people in and you can win a lot of games in Arizona. And like Aaron mentioned, he is kind of, sadly, considering the length of his tenure here, the winningest coach of all.
He really is. 49, 30, and 1.
So I respect him for that. He changed the way that Arizona thinks about itself as an organization, I think, and proves that you can be a real contender. Congratulations to him. I think he did a really nice thing with Todd Bowles too, because I hated seeing Todd Bowles go to
Jets.
what is honestly a poverty franchise in the Jets, and just be set up in a horrible situation to have any sort of success, because Todd Bowles is a fantastic coach.
Mm-hmm.
And if Tom Brady sticks around and you keep that same Buccaneers team around Todd Bowles, he has a serious, immediately contending team. So I hope that sets up Todd Bowles' head coaching career going into the future. That's an awesome move and a really upstanding one for Bruce Arians, I think. So got a lot of respect for him for that. But I get what Aaron's saying about being hurt that he came out of retirement and went to another team. I get that. I felt the same thing because I was a big Bruce Arians fan when he was here.
And I think James here, agrees with you, Aaron. Bruce up is the ultimate Mary, the chick from the bar. And listen, that's, and I'm not going to say that that's wrong. That he, would I rather he stuck around and been part of rebuild? Yes. But at the same time, he, as Kyler talked about, he brought a lot in his time here and helped create a sense of what the possibility was. And we had a really good winning stretch, and brought us into relevance. So I get it. I still have an appreciation for what he did while he was here, but I get it, how someone would be frustrated. There's a couple of questions, or we'll get this one comment. I love when I asked who he wanted to face in the playoffs. He said, I want Seattle, at Seattle.
I also will remember, I think it was the first Thursday night game of the Bruce Arians era. And it was when the Rams were still in St. Louis, and Stephon Taylor was our running back. And we ended up beating the Rams at a nitty gritty game. And he just basically trashed the Rams after the game. I was like, this is awesome.
He provides a lot of good sound bites to go back to.
Yeah. And, CB has similar, I think, that he brought rejuvenated the franchise. And so I want to there's a couple questions posed in the chat. So I want to get to those. And I think this one's probably a pretty quick one. But Pale's Time's asking if any Cardinals players you could see on the trade block either before or during the draft. Well, I mean, Andy Isabella's on the trade block. I just don't know if anyone's going to trade for him, if anyone's going to give up anything for him, but he's already on the trading block. Is there anyone else that either of you see that could possibly be on the trading block?
Geez, that's tough.
I have trouble thinking of one that would be getting serious trade consideration.
Yeah. I mean, I could throw up a name just to throw up a name. I mean, I guess if I had to pick one name, I think it would actually be, it may be, and this is very slightly, Max Williams.
Okay. Yeah, I
value.
Yeah, I don't typically you don't see teams trade players they just signed, so probably he's a player that'd be value, but unlikely. I think Isabel's the only one, but if I had to take a kind of an outside of the box long shot of a player based on kind of where things were at, maybe DJ Humphries, like a guy who's on the last year of his contract, has a big cap hit. If the Cardinals wanted to try to get Josh Jones, I don't think that's happening. But when you look at who's on the roster, that's a name. Aaron, were you going to jump in with something?
I was going to say maybe. What about the other Thompson safety? I don't like.
Yeah, Deontay Thompson. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know if there'd be a lot of value, but that's a guy who's near the end of his rookie deal.
Him, or I think it was Jalen. Was it Jalen?
Jalen's the starter. Deontay is the backup.
That's who Jalen. I think Jalen could be possibly traded.
I know I don't think
Kyler's reaching for the Advil.
No,
I can't do it.
Yeah.
No, what I was gonna say, but it's along the same lines as Isabella. I'm not sure that there would really be a ton of trade value, but you did select Lucky Fotu and Rashard Lawrence in that draft. And if you are having draft plans of going defensive tackle really early, and getting one of the top guys at 23, maybe. I just don't. I don't know that you would get much more than a very late round pick. It might be similar to the Mason Cole for a 6th round pick that we did last offseason, which it honestly might be about where Andy Isabella is, like really close to the draft. You might get a 5th or 6th for him.
Yeah,
I like that. But Shadowheart said, yeah,
I've seen a lot of people suggest
Popular.
this, and
I
listen,
wanted N'Keal Harry.
I wouldn't hate that. I just don't know if I don't know if that trade's going to happen, but I wouldn't hate it.
I want this to happen so bad, just like I wanted Hakeem Butler to work out.
Yeah,
man, I really wanted Butler to work out, but Harry, I just feel like I'm harboring too many memories of how good he was in college and haven't seen any proof of that since, because he was amazing at ASU. I watched him a lot, and he was fantastic, and he had a lot of hype going into the draft, and he I don't think it's fair to label him a bust necessarily, but he has not lived up to what we expected of him.
Yeah, I think he needs a change of scenery, and I think he still has a chance to be a decent player in the right situation. I think I was talking about this, I think, in the Discord chat, which I want to plug that. There's a link below. Join the Discord. We have a lot of great conversations throughout the week. I'm increasingly of the opinion that the problem is that they drafted Isabella thinking he could be a slot receiver, because I think Cliff likes the smaller slot receivers, but he was an outside receiver at UMass. And for whatever reason, he's not working in the slot, so they're not playing him. That's what I think. And I think if you get him in the right situation, a team, like, it's funny, like we talked about this, Bruce Arians, he would have been a great fit for what Bruce Arians likes, because Arians likes those small, fast outside receivers.
John Brown.
So, and JJ Nelson. Yeah. So I think
you could also argue that Andy Isabella is perfect for what Bill Belichick likes to do.
Yeah,
Danny Amendola's, Edelman,
Julian Edelman in the
Chris
slot
Hogan.
Guy.
So I think he needs a change of scenery, and I hope the best for him. But it didn't work. It hasn't worked here, and I think it's. I don't think it's going to work here. CB posed this question, and then Michael Richard also added onto this about that if Ojabo's in the second, we should consider him. Quick question for you guys. Would you mind taking a serious consideration on David Ojabo in the second round? Sucks the timing of the injury occurred on his pro day. That's it. So, Aarron, why don't you get us started? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to say no. Because if, whatever the first round focus is, there has to be a cornerback taken. Or a wide receiver in the second round or something. We obviously know he can't be a linebacker, but there has to be some other piece that we have missed that needs to go there. Now, I'm not saying take a running back as much as I would like to in the second round. I know it's not realistic, but it's got to complement the first round pick. And I just don't know of taking a flyer, especially a second rounder on a guy who just tore his Achilles. And I know that the Rams running back, who also talked to Buda Baker, he who shall not be named, did that in 6 months, but I just don't know. I would say no, and that's my point.
What do you think, Kyler?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to pretty much agree with Aarron on all of that. I can't get past that injury. I know that you rehab and plenty of players come back and they're perfectly fine. I don't know.
Maybe if it was a third or later, but not a second.
Yeah, it is a terrible misfortune though for him that it occurred when it did and the way that it did, and just immediately plummeted his draft stock. Because a lot of teams are going to be wary of taking a player who got so publicly injured like that. But also, side note, super disgraceful the way everyone there acted when he did.
Yeah.
Like, there is no excuse for showing that much callousness when a human being suffered a horribly painful injury like that and no one goes to help him and they just move the ball and move on to the next drill. People just need to be better people than that.
Yeah, and for anyone who didn't see that, if you've seen the video of the injury, just everyone's standing around like nothing happened, and and I don't know, it felt like a little bit of the bystander kind of psychology thing going on, where everyone thinks it's someone else's job to help them out or something, and it was really not a good look for
even
humanity.
Kyler Murray tweeted about that.
Yeah,
I saw.
yeah. So okay, this one's a little tough for me, but I'm actually going to probably come out on the other side from you guys on this one. So and I will use this chance to plug Mock Draft Mondays. Every Monday we do mock drafts for the next 3 or 4 weeks up until the draft. It's a lot of fun. If you want to get your mock drafts in on the show, there's a way to do that. But one of the things I've been seeing doing mock drafts, like every time I take an edge rusher in the first round, in the second round, I get there and like there's like 3 edge rushers that I'm like, I could have just waited for this guy. So where I'm going with this is second round is usually where I end up taking edge rushers, because there's a handful of guys like Nick Benito and Enigbari and guys like that are just there. And you figure one of those guys would be a good fit for a second round edge rusher to kind of develop into the starter. So I usually go first round, like offensive line or receiver, maybe a few other positions sometimes. So I like the Cardinals taking an edge rusher in the second round. And if Ojabo is there, like he's a first round talent, right? If it weren't for the injury. Yeah. Now, the one caveat or the negative to that is I think they're really hoping that the person they draft is going to be able to start or at least contribute early on with Chandler Jones gone. And like right now, what it looks like is their starters are Marcus Golden, who I love, and Devin Kennard, who I think is a nice depth player, a serviceable low-end starter, but you'd like to have someone in that rotation who's an upgrade from that with a little more pass rush. Kennard's better setting the edge. He can get a few sacks, but he's not a double-digit sack guy. So, like, there's one part of me that's like, if you have a chance to get a first-round talent in the second round, and yeah, you're going to have to wait. He may not contribute till end of the season, if not the next season. That's a negative, but do you take that talent for the long run? But I also get the other part. The other part of that is you're not going to get a guy who's contributing, at least not till late in the season, if at all. So then you got to either get a free agent or get another edge rusher later. But I lean towards is if he falls that far, which I don't think he will. I think he's going early second round. I think a team, or maybe even late first round, probably early second round, even with the injury. But if he's there at 55, I'm probably taking him. That's my take. So
here would be my thinking about the draft, just sort of in general, just a generality. With the amount of positions of needs that the Cardinals have right now, hey Diego, we have so many positions that need someone, an immediate impact player, and we have those like really crucial depth rounds, 4th and 5th gone. We don't have those picks this year. So in my opinion, we have to have players in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd round that are going to be starting their rookie season. And if there's even a chance that Ojabo can't start or play very much, maybe even until halfway through the season, just from the value of the draft picks that we have this year, because we don't have this bounty of picks that we've had in some years, and we don't have the depth picks in the middle, the 4th and 5th round, that those top 3 players have to be immediate impact players, especially the 1st round. But 2nd and 3rd round players have almost as high of a success rate as 1st rounders, and 2nd rounders arguably have a higher success rate than 1st rounders. So those are really crucial rounds, and we're going to get depth in the 6th and 7th rounds where we have multiple picks, but those are going to be mostly depth and also camp bodies that a lot of them might not end up making the team. So 1, 2, 3 have to play day one.
I mean, that point's not lost on me, and that's the thing that does give me pause, and I recognize that. But it's this value proposition where there's a point where it's like, I feel like maybe I would rather take, if I got a chance for a guy that good, that late, I'd rather go ahead and take him and try to fill that spot I was hoping to fill with the draft pick, sign a free agent after the draft. And I don't, there, you can argue both ways, and your point makes a lot of sense. Right. So, it's a tough, it's a little bit tough. And that the reason you articulated is exactly why it's not a slam dunk for me. But yeah. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about, or was there anything else y'all wanted to mention about that comment? Or are we good on that?
No,
okay.
I'm good.
So one of the things that we wanted to talk about last week that we didn't get to timing wise was talking about the Cardinals plan in free agency. So, and I did a video talking about, trying to talk about what their plan is. And it seems like what I thought was the plan, what we're continuing to see with them not really going on any big, spending sprees seems to be more and more accurate. It seems like what it looks like to me is they are only going for some depth guys. And in fact, I'm going to put this graphic up. This, I know it's a little blurry, but this is from Over the Cap. And this is their projections for the 2023 compensatory picks for the Cardinals. And if you don't understand, how the rules of that work, there's some, if you can Google and get the rules of it. But the short version is players who were free agents because their contract ended, not players who were released, but players who ended their last contract, who are signed before the end of the draft, count towards the compensatory system. But only the top 35%, I think, or something like that of players count, or maybe it's a top 65. Maybe I got it backwards. But anyway, low price free agents don't really hurt it, right? So losing Christian Kirk, in all likelihood, is going to get us a third round compensatory pick next year.
Sweet.
Losing Chandler Jones is going to get us a fifth round. Now, there is a rule. And someone was asking about this Discord. There's a particular rule where players who've been in the league, I think it's like 10 years or something like that, their compensatory compensation, it caps at a fifth round. So based on the contract, he might have been a fourth or a third, but there's a rule that limits it to a fifth. So he's going to be a fifth, and they're projecting we'll get a sixth for Chase Edmonds. Now, this isn't always exactly right. Sometimes it's off, especially in the later rounds. Like, for example, we thought this year we were going to get a fifth, but we ended up getting sixth and seventh. But Nick Vigil has not counted against this, and Will Hernandez. I keep saying that's the wrong Hernandez. My bad. Yeah, and I don't mean sorry. Hernandez. Will Hernandez. Slip. I know, and Will Hernandez is a good dude, so I apologize to Will Hernandez and the entire Hernandez family. But Will Hernandez is not, based on his contract, isn't going to count against us. So I think what they're doing is, I don't think they're going to sign anyone before the draft that loses one of those picks. I think they're playing the long game. And to be honest, in my opinion, the best franchises, best run organizations do this. Baltimore, New England, Pittsburgh, they maximize the system. I know some people have been very flippant and like, oh, I don't want, let's go get, let's sign big free agents and you're caring about a third round pick. Well, the best organizations do. And so I think this is what they're doing. And after the draft, players you sign don't count against us. So there's still some good names out there. And, Lance is saying, the list of available free agents is pretty intriguing. Lots of good players still out there. And I think at this point, you'll see a few signings, but most teams have slowed down because I think most teams now are like, who haven't already lost their compensatory, who like the teams have spent and lost their comp picks next year, have already capped out their spending. And then there's all the teams like the Cardinals who are waiting it out like we are because they don't want to lose their compensatory picks. Right. So, that's what I think they're doing. And I personally like it as long as they sign some players after the draft.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? I just gave my case for it, but Aaron, we'll let you get started. What are your thoughts?
I think the bigger question, or the bigger answer to this question is, this is a direct correlation of the Kyler Murray thing going on right now. Until they can figure out what they're going to do with the contract, then why would they sign anybody else? And this is a great system. I don't think, Arizona has ever really worked this. And, until you had shown me this graphic, I never knew how that worked. So I just think Murray is just holding it up, and that's a whole different discussion in itself.
Yeah, I will say though, the Kyler Murray contract impacts years down the road more than it does this year. In fact, depending on how they would, it's actually conceivable they could structure a contract extension in such a way that it actually gives cap relief this year and definitely next year with that 5th-year option. So now,
right, but
that does matter. Let me just finish this point. It does matter for like 3 years from now, because any extension is going to, especially if it's giving cap relief this year, next year, in 2024 is going to have a big cap number. So signing those big contracts with big high priced free agents, that was going to impact that, right? But the 1 or 2 year guys, I don't think the Kyler contract would impact that. Does it make sense?
Yeah, my thing is just that, I think the deadline's like May 12th or May 22nd for the 5th-year option. It fully guarantees that 5th year. And I don't know what our cap space is for 2023. But it's just something to note. And then the other thing that I just thought of right now is, don't give a contract extension to a quarterback that could potentially have problems with the organization. And then you wind up like the Texans did with Deshaun Watson. And then everything else came with it. But right before he signed a contract and the coaching hire was bad, and then that's how he got ticked off. And then everything else we knew came to light. And then they had to trade him. But otherwise, Texans would have had to eat that contract. If you give a contract to an unhappy Kyler Murray and he still doesn't want to, play, then, that could be a really catastrophic thing to go.
Yeah, but I think the only reason he's unhappy and I think that's overblown, is because he doesn't have the contract. I think he has a good relationship with Cliff. Houston was such a dysfunctional organization. Like Bill O'Brien, there's a reason we were able to get Nuke for nothing. Part of it is that he had kind of burned that relationship. So I'm not worried about that. And then it still comes back to, you either have to pay Kyler or move on from him. I mean, there isn't really a middle ground. You can wait another year and then pay more. But yeah, Kyler, did you want to jump in on that?
Well, to address the Kyler aspect of it, which I knew that we weren't going to get through an hour without talking about Kyler Murray and his contract. But to address it, I think his contract's just an inevitability. It will happen. He will get paid a lot of money. A lot of people will think it's too much money. But if the cap continues to go up the way that it's supposed to go up, it's going to matter less and less as the years go on. It's going to happen, in my opinion. Kyler Murray will get paid at some point this offseason. So You dropped a lot of knowledge about the compensatory stuff, because I never fully understood it either. And I would agree that that's what it seems like they're trying to do, which maybe that's a good sign that Steve Keim is trying to take a different strategy with how he's managing the team. Maybe he's learning and growing as a general manager. My concern with the strategy, obviously, is we lose out on big name free agents. And not even particularly that, but we lost out on big name wide receiver, 2 positions that we desperately need for the draft, in which Steve Keim has historically just not been good in. He has been very good at bringing in free agents, and he has been remarkable at trading, unlike any GM we've seen before with some of the trades that he's pulled off. But he has not historically been very good at drafting. So I get that is what their strategy is, and I do fully agree that that's what's going on and why we've been so relatively quiet. But the underlying logic of it scares me a little bit, because if he is functioning with the mindset that Kyler Murray's the guy of the future and he's going to get paid a lot of money to be here for a long time, which means he wants these draft picks to continue building a team around him as certain players on the team get older and will eventually leave. But he has not been a historically good drafter. So there are some flaws in that underlying logic, but I think you're right. That is what's going on.
Yeah. Aarron, were you wanting to get back in there? I thought looked like you might have.
No, I'm
Okay. I will say this, and this is a conversation that's been in the Discord a little bit, and I know I'm always a little bit of an apologist, and maybe maybe that's just in my nature. I think that a lot of like when you look at Steve Keim, I know the popular opinion is that he's not good at drafting. He doesn't know what he's doing. And listen, objectively speaking, I've seen some of the data that's been put out by like PFF that looks at the success of draft picks. And objectively speaking, he has not had a good stretch for the last 5 to 7 years. It's been bad. But I also look at it, he worked his way up through the scouting department. He became like the head of their scouting or player personnel. And then he became GM by working up through that. I believe he's a good talent evaluator. That's how you work up through that. I think that there's a disconnect between the draft picks and them being successful. And I think it's a couple things. Like obviously, like every team misses on some draft picks, right? So there's some that are going to miss because they're head cases or because of injury. That's inevitable. But there's a certain percent that miss because you mismanaged them or because you or really you just didn't evaluate them well. And so it's hard to kind of tease out which ones are the misses that he shouldn't have missed and which ones are the ones that are kind of that baseline, right? But I think the difference between where he's at and where other GMs are at has to do with things like players being played out of position. You look at like Hassan Reddick, we've talked about, they woefully mismanaged his career. And I'm glad he didn't complain. He did everything right. And I'm glad he got paid. And I feel bad that they mismanaged his career. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but that's part of what's happened. But I also think another part of it has been, you've had some regime changes. In fact, one of those changes in the middle from Arians to Wilkes to Cliff involved a change in defensive scheme from 3-4 to 4-3. And that's a significant change in terms of the personnel.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So when you have those changes, what happens is the new coach comes in and the players they didn't draft, those players don't fit their personnel or their scheme. They're either going to get rid of them or play them out of position or play them in the closest fit, right? A guy who was an outside linebacker is going to be a defensive end. A guy that's a nose in a 3-4 becomes a defensive tackle. He's not a perfect fit, but they make it work, right? So they make all these changes. And then so players are played out of position, not optimally. And then they had like 3-4, 1 year 4-3, then 3-4 again. So they went back and forth in 3 quick year succession, back and forth from one scheme to another, back to another version of a 3-4. So those players were tossed about. And in that turmoil, you get new coaches. So players don't get that continuity of development. So maybe I'm wrong about this, but I'm of the opinion that the draft record being bad for Keim has more to do with that turmoil and players not being able to develop and not being in the same system and the same coaches over that quick turnover from those 3 coaches. Now, if I'm right, then if I'm right about this, signing Cliff to an extension for as much as people didn't like it will help. Now, it may not make Cliff a better coach at the end of the season, but I bet Keim's drafts will start to look better over that course because there will be continuity, if I'm right. If I'm wrong, then I'll acknowledge that I'm wrong a couple of years from now when we look at it. So there's my little diatribe. What do you all think about that?
I think that's a very thoughtful way to consider it. I mean, in the name of fairness, I even had to defend Steve Keim a little bit on Twitter today. Regardless of how you feel about him, when you do look at the organization from a bird's eye view, but when you do
see what you did there.
Steve Keim has led an organization that shockingly has a winning record. I think it's 76-67. 4 of his years have been winning years, and those winning years have been by quite a lot. There was a 13-win year and 11-win year. things like that, mostly with Bruce Arians. But the team has had success with Steve Keim as the general manager. It is marred by just the unmitigated disaster of 2018, because that ruins most general managers' careers. Most people get fired and the whole house gets swept. But we stuck around and we won 5 games, and we won 8 games, and then we won 11 games. So from a larger trend standpoint, Steve Keim has been successful.
Yeah. I just want to really acknowledge this. I think he's saying we could have got Devontae Adams first, but here's the thing that people sometimes miss in free agency. And thanks for being here, Moores. Like I say, I know you're a regular supporter of the channel. Here's the thing people miss. We couldn't have gotten for first and second because he didn't want to come here. He's from that area. He wanted to go to Vegas. And this is a thing people miss sometimes. Sometimes people say, well, geez, if we would have just paid that player what they played and we could have, no, that player wanted to go to that team and we would have had to pay like 20% more, and they still might not have wanted, you know what I'm saying? Like there's always, sometimes we forget that the players are not computer programs in Madden, right? That like Adams wanted to play with his college quarterback, right? Yeah. From Fresno State. So I don't think we would have been able to get him.
But it's the optics that matter.
No,
I mean, the Jets were in final conversations for Tyreek Hill. Where's Arizona doing stuff like that?
Well, now, okay, Tyreek Hill, the question of could we have had Tyreek Hill? Maybe, right? But you have to look at each case. So I'm not disagreeing about Tyreek Hill and the optics, but you have to, I guess what I'm saying is you can't apply that logic to every move, right? Because Adams he was going to the Raiders or the Packers probably. Yeah. Right. That was probably it. But it's a fair point. Like, you know, I think I didn't want them to make big moves, but you could ask, you know, I wanted them to kind of build depth. But if you felt like they should have, I think it's a fair question to ask why weren't they in on someone like Tyreek Hill, right? Sorry, just a couple folks. Michael Richard, Calvin, thanks for being here. Appreciate you being here. Any news on Calais Campbell? And some people have asked about that. Sorry, or any thoughts on that? I mean, Calais Campbell, I haven't heard any news. Have you guys heard anything about him?
I haven't heard anything about any team that he's considering.
I'm over it. I don't want him. I said that last week. I'm still there.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind him coming back, but I don't think it's going to happen until after the draft. Yeah, watch. I think we'd all flip up, wouldn't that?
Yeah. He's not going to be like a Ricky Prohl. Come on now.
I know, Ricky.
Going way back in the day to these jerseys.
Yeah, right. For sure. So, yeah. Sorry. So what do you? I don't know. I jumped in there with that Devontae Adams thing, but so. Oh, let me real quick. We got _ thanks for being here. Let's just be grateful for getting D-Hop for a bag of chips, because in this free agents market, there's no way we'd gotten D-Hop. League is sleeping on. Yeah. Listen, that was a heck of a trade, right? And like, again, I know I'm being a little bit of an apologist, but like, every time another team trades for a player, like everyone's all on like jumping on Keim's case. Like, why didn't he get that trade? Like, there are 31 teams other than the team that traded that would have loved to get that trade. You can't win. You can't get every good trade that happens if you're one team, right? But Keim got arguably the best trade in the last decade with Hopkins. He pulled off a good trade for Hudson, right? A good trade for Ertz. He's pulled off 3 good trades. You can't get them all. One team can't get them all, right?
Have you seen the Rams?
Right, I know, right?
Yeah, the Rams are.
Listen, they've had a good,
Ramsey, Stafford. I mean, you name it. Like, what the hell?
Michael Thomas is an interesting name. Really didn't play last year, you know. I know, and then there have been some posts on social media from.
He denied it.
Yeah, they were very vague posts. So I don't think there's anything going on. So I don't know. We're at 59 minutes, so the hour goes really quickly. But was there anything? I think there's maybe one thing. If you guys have like maybe 3 minutes I know that Aarron wanted to mention something that I think was interesting, because, going back to Kyler, there were, apparently the Cardinals did meet with, with Malik Turner, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of a receiver, Malik Turner out of Dallas. So what were your, what do you think about that potential move?
I mean, I see him kind of like an Andy Isabella kind of a thing, but not Andy Isabella in a way, like comparable in size, not so much speed, but I think he's probably a more polished route runner than Isabella is. Now, he really didn't get, a lot of targets in Seattle and Dallas, and he's also hated in Seattle because he dropped a wide open pass in the Packers playoff game in Lambeau. But it's like you said earlier in the podcast, sometimes you just need a change of scenery for it to happen. And if this is the next Antoine Wesley, then so be it. But I was just kind of scratching my head, like, really, like this is the best we can do. But that's my take.
What do you think, Kyler?
I mean, I think if it's a depth move and a camp body, that's perfectly fine. I think he had 15 targets, 12 receptions, 149 yards, 3 touchdowns, something like that in Dallas last year. So if he's a special teamer, that's great. It's not like they're looking towards Malik Turner as the number 2 option or anything like that. So it's not really something to get super excited about or something to get disappointed about. It's just one of those regular business inquiries and moves that you expect to see in the offseason. So if he comes to Arizona, that is fine. And if he doesn't, we're not any worse off.
Yeah, I see it kind of similar to where you guys see it. I've seen some folks on social media, like, who are very like kind of getting a little up in arms about signing him because they're like, this is your answer for the number 2 receiver. What the heck, blah, blah, blah. And like, I think people who are getting upset about the possibility of signing Turner are looking at it the wrong way. And the way they're looking at it is they're looking at it as though he is a replacement for AJ Green, but he isn't. He's a replacement for Andy Isabella, right? If they sign him, they're probably going to either trade or I'd be surprised if Andy Isabella is on the opening, the week 1 roster. I think he's going to, if he isn't traded, I think he'll be released at some point. And basically what you've got is a depth guy. He's an outside wide receiver, but he's tall. He's 6'2", I think. So he's taller than Isabella. So he better fits what they want on the outside. And he plays more on special teams than Isabella does. Isabella had a handful of special teams snaps, but Malik Turner had a couple hundred special team snaps. So, and I looked at his special teams grade on PFF, and he graded reasonably well. So I think what he is if they sign him, he's a replacement for Isabella who plays more special teams.
Exactly.
That's kind of what I think. Let me real quick say hey to Royal Ronan. We talked about that earlier. Hey, wouldn't listen. And N'Keal Harry would be an interesting kind of reclamation project, but I don't want to lean on him for my number 2. And then we'll maybe end on this. Are we all in agreement that Cards should not move up in draft? Do you think they should? What do you guys think about that? Moving up in the draft.
The most heat that I have seen on various internet sources are people wanting to move up if necessary to get Jameson Williams. The consensus I see out there is moving up for a wide receiver of some kind, whether it's him or any of the others, Treylon Burks, Chris Olave. I don't think we should move up or down. 23 is a fairly decent pick. You're going to still get a good player, but the value to move up, I don't really see in this year's draft. I don't know what you guys think.
I mean, originally when the offseason first started, I kind of gave a lot more thought into that. And there are a handful of teams willing to trade those picks. I mean, Houston is, potentially open at 3 if you want to go that high. The Jets and the Giants are looking to trade out 1. And I think there's like one other team within those top 13, 14 picks. my thing is like, if you're going to do it, it's going to have to be a Hall of Fame kind of pick.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is going to have to come in, blow the doors off, rookie of the year, and it better be a scheme fit. Because let's face it, I don't think Keim has ever traded up in the draft, to my memory. And, you know, if you're in this spot right now, because Keim sucks at drafting anyway, why not move up, get the guy that you know is truly, or you believe is truly going to work, risk it all, and see what happens with your franchise quarterback potentially in the last year of his rookie deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have zero numbers on this. This is just
Right.
a gut thing, but you don't tend to see too many teams move up in the draft unless it's because they need a quarterback and there's a quarterback that they think is going to be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, you lose quite a lot of future draft value moving up if it's for a position other than quarterback, which is, of course, the most important position in football.
And a couple of folks have mentioned Rose, and we traded up, and and I've been,
Right.
I'm old. I've been following the Cardinals longer than some of the folks in the chat have been alive. But like, for what I've seen from over the years from Steve Keim, is when it comes to the first round, I've only really seen him move up for a quarterback. I've seen him trade back, and sometimes just a few picks. Now, I have seen him move up and down the board on day 2 and 3, but in the first round, I've only seen him for a quarterback. And I am not with the fact that they have limited picks in the middle rounds. I would rather see them trade back than trade up. I wouldn't mind seeing them trade back 3 or 4 spots in the first round if the guys we like are gone. Right. I've probably done a couple hundred mock drafts on PFF as part on my own, and then also as part of Mock Draft Monday. And there are times when the best players on that board are just, a tackle, a safety, a cornerback. I know a lot of people want cornerback. I don't think they're going to go quarterback first round. I'd rather go receiver, defensive tackle, or offensive line. So like, there are points where I'm like, yeah, I would want to trade back a few picks, grabs another third rounder or second rounder. So, but I think with what you'd have to give up to move up, I'm not on board with trading up this year, especially since they don't need a quarterback right now. Right.
Yeah. And I guess I forgot Rosen, but in my defense, that pick was so bad, it doesn't even really count.
Right. But like, quarterbacks are a different thing, right? Like, picking a quarterback is a different set of rules than every other position, right? I treat that as a whole different category, right? The rules are different. That. I'm sorry?
Oh, you don't do that for a defensive tackle that you can't guarantee is going to be the next Aaron Donald. You don't do that really for wide receivers, even. You don't do it for running backs particularly, but quarterback, it is absolutely the most important position in the entire game, and it's really the only one worth giving up the future to get right now. But
there's only 2 exceptions I remember vividly. Obviously, the where Ditka put on the Ricky Williams draft, but that was a weird draft, gave up the whole draft. But in more contemporary times, the Julio Jones, trading up for Julio Jones, right? But like, those are outliers, right? Yeah. Aside from that, it's quarterbacks that you're giving up future first round picks and moving up that much, right? So, yeah. Well, it's been over an hour. I appreciate you guys sticking around for a little longer, folks in the chat. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of great questions and comments. We're gonna wrap this up in just a second, but first, Aarron, tell everyone where they can find your stuff. I know your links are below, and anything you want to say on the way out as we go.
Yeah. So I've started my own new Twitter page for at @_ABB Sports. It's the sports I follow, mostly Cardinals content. You will see a little bit Brewers and Bucks because I'm from Wisconsin. So, I mean, just be aware of that. And I'm also on Raising Zona. I've been writing there. God, in November, it will be 2 years since I've been on there. So, and should you, for whatever reason, want to read what I write about the Texans stuff, I do Torah Times on Fansided as well. And so that's where I'm at.
Awesome.
Yeah. And Hail Titans, Connor Sanger, first UWO guy in Cardinals organization, to my knowledge. So Hail Titans.
Nice. Kyler, same to you.
Well, as always, you guys can find me on Twitter at AZCards. _Birdseye. I think I sometimes forget my own handle, but Thursday nights is always fun. I really always look forward to talking to Joe and Aaron about this sort of stuff. I don't live with Arizona Cardinals fans around me, so this
Neither
is
do I.
my
Same.
outlet. None of us do, actually. Texas,
Yeah.
Chicago, Georgia. We are not in an Arizona.
We are the Cardinals diaspora. That's what I call it.
yes, we are. We're everywhere, you know. But other than that, I do have a YouTube channel that you guys can follow, Bird's Eye View. Joe is always good about putting that sort of stuff in the description below. So if you want to talk about the wide receiver that I really like in the draft, Treylon Burks, that's the most recent video. So go and check that out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you guys. Yeah, I appreciate you being here. And yeah, Kyler's put a lot of hard work in his channel, and he's got a video that's getting close to 1,000 views, his first, which it's like your fifth, sixth video?
I think it was my fifth video. Yeah.
It took me a dozen videos to get there. So kudos to you. Good work. He's doing good stuff there. So check him out. Check out AVB. Make sure you follow both these gentlemen on Twitter, read their stuff. And obviously if you aren't subscribed to my channel, please do. And again, Mock Draft Monday is a lot of fun. Come out, join us. And when I put up the link for it, there'll be instructions on how to get your mock draft in the show. Thank you everyone in the chat. I apologize if we couldn't get to your questions. We can't get to them all. But I definitely appreciate everyone being here. You guys help make it, a really great experience. So what I'm going to do on our way out is I always like to do a shout out to my channel members, the folks who help support the channel. So I'm going to put up the member shout outs, the Hall of the Ring of Honor, the TCR Ring of Honor, to thank those folks who do that. So again, thank you everyone for being here, and we will see you next time. Peace.